could we do the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United
States of
to the
America,
republic for which
to
it
the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with
indivisible,
liberty
with
and
justice
for all.
for all.
Hey, welcome everybody. Francis was not able to make it tonight. Could you call the roll?
Sure. Francis Bach, I'll mark absent. Jim Grimes. Bill Taylor.
Here.
John Aldred.
Here.
Ben Dollinger. I see him there. Ben Dollinger. Okay.
Probably
Rick Drew. Yeah, I see Ben, so you're on my phone. Rick Drew.
Here.
Thank you. Tim Garneau.
Here.
Mike Martinson.
Might just be coming in.
Okay, I'll keep an eye out for Mike and Jim. Susan McGraw-Keeber.
Present.
Thank you. All done.
Arlene, Ben's here too. I just hopped on.
Yeah, I had seen you were there. I saw your icon, but I'll mark you formally here. So we're waiting just on Mike and Jim.
We have a quorum. So should we begin with public comment? Is Ira available?
You have nobody on the phone line right now.
Okay.
Let me.
Scott?
Okay. Should I go ahead?
I don't know.
Yeah, Scott, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Do we want to wait for anyone else to come online, or I guess I can just start. Okay. All right. Well, thanks everyone for just giving me some time to address trustees with a little project that I have been putting together. Well, planning for a while, but it's in conjunction with the Parish Art Museum of Southampton, and it's an off-site artist project. More specifically, my proposal is actually building a barge, hand-built barge, and ideally, what I'd like to do is display it in town waters. So I don't know what avenue I even have to kind of operate through to get permission or permits, or thought I'd start with the trustees. And I think at least just get signed and just sign off on the idea or get input, or you could kind of show me the way. But I'll just go ahead and share my screen and show you what I'm talking about exactly here. So the project itself is actually called the Bonnet Barge. It's modeled after a duck blind. So in all appearances, it's really going to look like a duck blind on a floating kind of a platform. As an art project, it's a comment on housing crisis and also Bonnet traditional culture. And the idea is that it will be deployed. I'd like to have it somewhere in Accabonac Harbor and it'll be open to the public, ideally for a day, but hopefully longer if that's possible. As an exhibition. And so again, this will be through the Parish Art Museum, and they would have someone on hand, including myself. The barge itself could be visited ideally by the public. Either it would be very close to shore if it was in a bay or in a harbor. It could possibly be accessed via like a floating kind of a boardwalk. That's kind of to be determined. That's like in a detail depending on where I'd be able to actually deploy it. But just in terms of covering my bases, I would get insurance, any kind of necessary insurance or permits that could cover myself for liability and the town and trustees and anyone that needs to be covered, including the parish. And then the barge itself would, of course, be safe as possible with life preservers, and it would be anchored. It would of course be weight tested, As of now, I'm not sure if it would actually be a powered craft, so I don't know if that makes a difference. I was considering putting a little outboard motor on the back, a little battery-powered outboard motor. But I'm just going to go ahead and show you. Can everyone see what I'm sharing?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's actually pretty good.
Cool. Yeah, it's just my little. These are schematics, and it's not. I actually don't have this totally down dimension-wise, but this is just kind of the idea. It'd be about 8 feet wide, probably about 15 feet long and 10 feet high. You can see the duct line structure itself, which would actually serve as like a tiny house. And then more to the point, the locations that I'm thinking, if I'm able to do this, I have 4 picked out. First place is Maidstone Park, in the little sand spit area there, the little protected cove, which is very shallow. And I like the idea here because it's really accessible and close to a main road.
Baby Beach.
Baby Beach. Is that what it's called? Yeah.
Yeah.
So right where I'm marking with the X is ideally where I'd like to actually site it. Here's the second location at Louse Point, the little town beach there, I guess, and the X. Also just so kind of close to that launching ramp there. I think that's the launch ramp.
Yeah, it is. Hey, Scott.
Yep.
You may have even touched on this. When are you looking to do this, and how long would this thing be taking up place?
So
Taking up space?
we're shooting for mid-October, and ideally it would be exhibited. I'd like to do it for at least a day, and that would be deploying and then taking it out of the water within one day. If I was able to actually have it longer, I'd like to be able to do that, maybe up to even a week. And again, the idea for actually the public visiting would be you would make an appointment, in which case, I would allow really I think maybe 2 people tops on the actual barge itself, and it'd be kind of a controlled scenario, so there wouldn't be it wouldn't be like a public thing. Although I would like to have like a public kind of a reception, which would probably include up to whatever the maximum amount of people that can gather now is, or looking ahead to October. And then they would be guided out by appointment, 1 to 2 people on the barge itself.
Scott, what are the materials that you would be using to construct the barge? Do you have a spec sheet that you would send to us?
The actual materials? Sure. I can point them out, but yeah, I can send a list too. So this would all be wood, just decking, plywood. Ideally, it would actually be salvaged wood, old docking, old dock. The barrels are actually, I have them now. They're 55-gallon industrial plastic barrels. They'd be sealed. And so that's for flotation. They'd be attached either by nylon straps or by metal flat stock. And it would be plywood, and it would actually be covered on the outside with Phragmite reeds. So kind of like a duck blind would be.
Scott, can you just complete your choice of spots? I think you got 2 of them.
Yep.
So far.
Yeah, I have 2 more. So another site possibility could be Landing Lane Springs, kind of by that ramp there. And then finally, Gerard Drive, just at the very end there. Also kind of, I guess, close to where the kayak rack is. So those are like 4 locations that I picked out. And, if there's if there's a conflict in Accabonac Harbor, I'd be open to other places, but ideally I'd like it to be Accabonac Harbor.
Yeah, hey, Scott, I think the spot that you showed right where the launching ramp is would be problematic unless you could assuredly locate it where it's not going to be an impediment to people launching their boats and stuff.
Okay.
Gerard Drive, I don't think that would be a problem. Baby Beach, I can't imagine that that's being used for bathing in October.
Mm-hmm.
Landing Lane in Springs is a real nice protected spot.
Yeah.
That would maybe afford you the ability to have some people there and without like impinging on other people's use of the waterways.
Okay.
It's a pretty setting too for a duck blind orientation.
Yeah.
And Scott, you may know the trustees do issue a duck blind permit. This is a very similar application.
Okay.
When you get into public gatherings, I think you're into another layer of jurisdiction. But, it is something that the trustees can deliberate on. And our harbor management committee issues the permits each year and vets out the site. So I think there's a reasonable body of knowledge on the board to review your application.
Okay. Great. Okay, so like moving forward, would it depend on if it was, being as it's not actually a duck blind, and it wouldn't serve that purpose, would it be a different kind of jurisdiction? Would it be, as really
possibly a floating dock? I mean,
Okay.
that's another consideration. But if it was a real short duration of time, maybe it's something that could be considered.
Okay.
I thought originally it was more of a historical reference to duck blinds. And there was some write-up that I thought referred to that term, but
Right.
maybe it was just as a reference.
Oh, it is both. Yeah, it's not only references, but absolutely uses the language. So the idea.
Actually, I got to tell you, as a hunter, I kind of like Scott. I like the idea of the little bed and the little wood stove
Yeah.
in the duck blind.
I think that was more like when the market, gunning was going on back in the day, and some of the structures and blinds, et cetera, were outfitted with little warming stoves. So you do have kind of a historical reference here that isn't really well depicted throughout our community, and it was a pretty big part of our heritage.
Yeah. Well, thanks. Yeah, I'd love to share really more in depth of the idea, which again, it addresses issues like, hunting and fishing culture, phonic traditions, but also housing crisis, because it's meant to actually be like a tiny off-grid house and also camouflage into the environment and kind of all the above. So,
there's some issues you're going to have to look into there, because if you power it, it's going to be considered a vessel, and if it's considered for living, it's going to be against some town regulations, about living in unpowered vessels. So, there's some issues you have to look at.
Okay. I would say that, essentially as an art piece, it would not be lived in. But do you think that would matter?
As an art piece, it'd be fine.
Yeah. That's what I would bill it as. Essentially, you could think of it as a floating sculpture or temporary installation.
Scott, just don't move in.
Yeah, you won't see me living in there.
This
And I'm
is
on
like
the water, at least.
the sneaky way to get a summer house.
That's the backdoor plan.
Scott, do you have a way to trailer it and to get it off the trailer, back on the trailer?
Yeah, I will by the time that I would want to deploy it. Yeah, so not currently, but yeah.
All right.
It seems to me we could issue this as a short-term mooring permit for educational purposes.
Yeah.
Not make a big deal of it.
Yeah.
I'm kind of thinking along the same lines. Hey, Scott, and maybe the rest of the board, you may want to weigh in. I think this is one of those things where we're supportive, but I would like to see this thing sort of fleshed out and focused on when, where, how big, and the particulars. I think in concept, this all sounds good, but I think right now, I think you kind of need to narrow your focus down. Okay. And get your project underway, and then and tell us where you're anticipating doing this and exactly when.
Okay. Well, I could do that right now, and I kind of was just putting out these locations. So out of the four, I think is there a consensus that maybe Baby Beach or Landing Lane would be the better of the two?
I got to tell you, I think you're going to find Landing Lane to be the more protected spot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the channel's wide open from the north and west, and it's pretty brutal there and tough to handle a craft like that in that current.
Well, that, and you're still at a time where guys will be casting along that edge, and
okay.
Yep.
All right. Then I'll go with that location as my choice there. And then if I could say, ideally mid-October, so between the dates of 15th to the 20th, I think, in that window.
All right.
So would you send us then the spec sheets of the materials that you're using and, all the details? Send that to Arlene, and then Arlene can send them out to us.
Okay.
But it's a really interesting project, and you're so creative. I just have to say, so unbelievably talented in every way. So I'm looking forward to seeing this.
Scott, I just have a question. Do you plan to advertise this so people know about it and show up to it?
Yeah, and that'll be through the Parish Art Museum's channels. So, but yeah, I would personally promote it. Is there any issue with that, or?
No, I just was wondering. My thought was about the location was, would you be interested in a location that had more exposure to drive-by traffic?
Oh, right. Yeah.
Hey, Scott, this is Rick.
Hey.
In the spirit of COVID protocol, this seems like a great opportunity to really document something that's pretty cool. And, leveraging the virtual aspect of this and keeping the, in-person footprint of it, to a modest level. And maybe initially it is directed through your Parish Art membership. But, I could see this having some longevity to it. So, maybe not blow up too big the first year, and maybe it can be something that you can build on.
Yeah, ideally. Yeah, I guess just seeing if it'll float first.
There you
Literally figure.
Hey, Scott, Chris Carrillo, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, Chris, how are you? Good.
I'm doing pretty well, thanks. Just figured I'd offer up my legal perspective if you wanted to hear it.
Yeah, sure.
But Bill already touched on it briefly, which is once you decide whether or not you're going to power it, that's when you're really going to get yourself into New York State DEC jurisdiction. I know they have a whole kind of printout on man-made vessels and what you're going to need to do to document it that way. And then you're talking about navigational lights and things like that. So I think one of your biggest things is going to be figuring it out with the DMV. If you're going to power the thing, what you need to do to make it legalized, so you can actually kind of run it around legally in New York State waters. But if you don't power it, you probably have a lot more flexibility as far as what you do with your navigational lighting and flares and the whole thing. So that's going to be a big part of it for you.
Yeah, it's a good consideration. I would assume that is it true that if it's electrically powered, it doesn't have to be registered?
I
don't think so. Yeah.
No. Actually, hey guys,
new electric engines are too big.
I think for freshwater fishing and that there is no documentation that you do for a powered vessel in saltwater. So I think you may be skirting the issue. I think, Scott, for your purposes, you may keep calling this a duck blind.
Yeah. Okay.
You could probably check with harbor masters about those details of electric power. Need to register.
Yeah, we should definitely run it by the chief.
Okay. Well, then, probably to make it easier, it might not be powered. I think it might be easier just that it's not.
That makes sense, Scott.
Yeah.
And then, Scott, if it's an opening and you want to keep it up for a week, that might be a nice little time frame for you.
Yeah, I'd love to have it for like a week. I think would be a nice time frame.
We should try and shoot for that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That sounds good.
One day and gone, then people miss it, and I don't think it's a great endeavor, and I think we should share it with as many people as possible within reason.
I agree.
Plus, the longer it's there, the more it can spread out the crowd for people being able to experience it.
Yeah.
Good point.
Okay. Well, great. Yeah, I was definitely hoping for more than a day, but I would take a day if that's what I was given. So, okay, awesome. So what's my next step? I'll send the list of materials. You need definite sizes, definite kind of dimensions.
No.
This is 8 by 10.
Yeah.
I would just write a little narrative, what you want to do, where you want to do it.
Okay. Oh, I do have that. I sent that to Susan, but I can send that to everybody.
Yeah.
I think it went around, but Scott, if you could just freshen it up with any notes from tonight and kind of submit it as your final draft.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should I submit that to one or to all?
Send it to Arlene.
Yeah, if
Send it
you
to Arlene at the office and she'll distribute
she'll
it.
handle distribution.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Scott.
Thank you. And
Something to
all right.
look forward to.
Thanks. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Thanks, Scott.
Good night, Scott.
Bye.
Is Ira available?
Yeah, I just actually texted him. Is he here?
Yes. I am.
Oh, hi, Ira.
Hi. Sorry. And thanks for asking. My internet went down, Babes Lane, what could I tell you? But I was on my phone and I was listening to Scott, and I want to get in touch with him, because if he just tows it into wherever he wants, he's good. You know what I mean? If he puts a motor on it, it's no good. It's that simple, any kind of motor. So towing it into place would work great. Anyway, that's not why I came. I came because I'm on the board at Ashwag Hall, as many of you know, and Ashwag is currently applying for a water quality grant to upgrade Ashwag Hall. Springs Improvement Society, that owns Ashwag, is applying to the town's water quality funds for a grant to upgrade the septic system. And I don't have to tell you how many people use the bathrooms over the course of the year at Ashwag Hall. Mm-hmm. It really is the only place, and we're located right between Pussy's Pond and Accabonac. So we have a good chance this go-round of getting the grant, and I was interested in asking you all if you could possibly write a letter in support of that project.
I think I'd like to make a motion. I think everybody is likely going to be in favor of that.
I'll second that.
Thanks, Jim. I appreciate that. And, it could be addressed to, it would probably be best if it were addressed to Kim Shaw or the Water Quality Committee.
All right. Hey, Ira,
can we get a vote on that now?
I second Jim's motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Looks good.
Hey, Ira.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you could shoot over a letter to our office with some bullet points that you'd like to hear in the letter and who you'd like the letter addressed to, Arlene can put that together and get it right out to you.
Thank you so much, and I certainly will.
All right. And now, Ira, one last thing. Put some clothes on.
I'm sorry. I know. I got out of the water. I came home to talk to you guys, and it's like, what the hell? Anyway, everything got reset. This turned out good. Sorry, guys.
I have to say, I thought the same thing.
I'm saying, hey, I fucked it up a little, but, I can't help
it. Hope you have pants on, man.
How did you know?
It's okay. It's okay.
I think we have enough information on this subject.
I think you do. Nice to see you all. Thank you for your help. I'm signing off.
Good night, Ira.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Go to new business, water quality. That was just.
That is Ira.
That was just covered. So, in all business, we have the largest clam contest. Has anybody met on that? I don't see any reason why we can't run the clam contest pretty much the same way, just without the party at the end of it.
Mm-hmm. I spoke to Arlene this week about that, just going over, being the new chairman, what's happened traditionally and in the past. And it sounds like we could do everything except for the party pretty easily. So if we do decide to do it, we need to decide on what day we're going to do it. And some dates that she threw out were September 20th or September 27th. And if we do the 20th, we need to get the advertising in by next Thursday, August 27th. So I think either day could work. I don't know if people are concerned that it's going to be get a little cooler out if we go later, but I think we could definitely do it. And then we'd also do like a social media aspect to it where people could film themselves, you know, digging up their clams, and we just have to figure out which platform we want to use to show that. So we could either do Zoom with the help of LTV. We could maybe do a Facebook Live feed, or I'm not sure what else is out there, but we could do a little more research on that. So, yeah.
Do those dates that you suggested take the tides, previous week tides into account? They need to be low tide the week prior to.
Oh, okay. That's a good. That's good advice. But we would give. Doesn't everyone get like a week or so to submit their clam?
Yeah, but every other week the tide is high during the day. Every other week
low at
it's
night.
low during the day.
Oh, okay. So I didn't take that into consideration when
Check the tides.
Yep.
Before those dates.
Okay. And then what about should we push it into like October potentially if the tide isn't cooperating?
You know, we did that last year, and I think it when you push it into October, one, the weather gets a little iffy, and two, the temperatures are falling off. I think it probably would work better in September if we can work it out.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Okay, and we're not planning a big party, so I think the timeline is doable. You know, we could get it all figured out pretty quickly. And then the other thing we discussed were the prizes and the budget. We don't need a ton of money because we're not supplying food and stuff, but do we want to allocate some money towards buying some prizes and gift certificates?
Well, okay, Ben, what we've tried to do in the past with that is solicit donations through, like, you know, everything from the Viking fleet's always been very generous to many of the marinas have been great. And, you know, typically we'll try and get somebody to donate $1,000, you know, the winning prize. Last couple of years, I think we've done a framed print or picture, you know, some antique East Hampton scene. But, well, I think typically on the prizes we've tried to do those on donations as much as we can.
Okay, and do we do like try to get some pizza gift certificates and ice cream cards, stuff like that?
But again, but actually, Ben, again, I think if we do, you know, if we do what we've done in the past, everybody does a little bit of legwork here and some missionary work with some of our local businesses. They've been very supportive of the trustees and of this event.
Okay, maybe I'll dig up the list of the businesses that have supported us year after year.
We have lists of the people that have donated in the past.
Ben, you and I spoke earlier this week as well, and I have a whole folder of information from the last one that we did. So I'm happy to meet with you and go through the list of donors. We did have pizza certificates. We did have gifts that were donated from various different local businesses, fishing rods, things like that. We had the clam baskets that were stuffed with prizes in those and then given to the kids. Loved them, and I think the largest clam contest winner got one. But we had a lot of great gifts. Some were purchased from, you know, various people on our committee here, but most of the things we do get, and the public is very happy to contribute to this wonderful event. So I want to go back to the video aspect, which you mentioned that we talked about, because I will reach out to LTV if we agree that that's the way to go, and have them work with me, because I was actually one of the first student there. We'll compile the videos that people send in to us and put it together as a separate show that the trustees can air, which I think would be very nice. And even if, you know, I don't know if it's possible to make copies or we can post it to YouTube. This way the whole community can see it and they can save it as the document for themselves. But I think that would be fun. It's very much like the East Hampton High School awards night. where everyone this year sent in a video of the winners and so forth. So I think that would be a good thing. So if you and I want to meet again at the office, I'll sit down with you with my file from last year. And I'm going to bring this to the office. Can you see this? I framed last year's poster. So I'm going to bring that to the office to hang up. But I think the poster that we had last year would be great to run an ad in the Star. I personally think September 27th would be a great date if that works for the Tide, because it gives us a little more time to get organized.
Okay, that sounds good. And then we just need to decide, do we put the rules on how to video yourself and send it in the press release, or do we throw those on the instructions on the bags at the seafood markets?
I think both.
Both?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, I agree. Both.
And then do we want to try to do, like, just to keep the clam chowder part of it alive, like take out chowder on the day of weighing, or that just promotes people gathering? I don't know. Just kind of keep that out of it.
That sounds like it might be problematic with this.
Yeah. Okay. Just everyone likes to-go food right now, so just be a good way to pick up a quart of chowder. I don't know. But that might be too much.
We can talk about that some more later.
Okay. So, all right. Well, I think we're going in a good direction here.
Okay. So Ben, do you want to get in touch with me this week if you have some time? I'm happy to meet you at any time that works for you.
Okay. Perfect. I'll give you a buzz tomorrow.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Good job, Ben.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Ben.
Good job, Ben.
Yep. Oh, one last thing. So if we don't have a ton of cooperation, do we want to allocate a little bit of money towards purchasing some prizes? And then also, how many prizes do we want to give out normally? Do we want to up that a little bit this year just to be generous, or what do you guys think?
We usually get a pretty good selection from the volunteer work we all do. So we all got to hustle it up for a little bit and see what we can come up with, and then maybe revisit that point, but hopefully we don't have to go there.
Okay.
Hey guys, isn't the stuff we bought with the baskets and the rakes?
Say that again, Jim?
Did we get the baskets and the rakes donated, or did we buy?
That was my question too. I don't know. Lori would know.
Yeah. But
Lori's been like doing this for decades.
Yeah, I think we may have bought that stuff, but you know what? We'll check into it. We can infill as we get closer to the event and make sure that we've got an adequate number. You know, because guys, the number of prizes also reflect how many entrants we get. And typically what we'll do, Ben, is as we get closer to the event, call the venues that are bringing in the clams, and they'll give you sort of a running.
The baskets we purchase, and they have to be ordered, and the plaques.
Okay.
Yeah. No, so
How long does it take to get the baskets? Arlene? Oh, Arlene?
It kind of depends on some of the suppliers. Like KB White supplies a lot of them. They may be the vendor. They're probably about a week.
Yeah.
And where is the part?
Yeah, we've
I'm
got
sorry?
some time.
I was just going to say, is it local where we can just go pick them up?
They're up in Rhode Island, I think, or Massachusetts.
Oh, okay. All right.
so we make arrangements now to order baskets and plaques and allocate the money for it.
And not to put any pressure on, but I just checked the
I'm
price.
listening. I think I'm off kilter with the TV.
Oh. We were talking about the baskets and where to get them, and
Arlene, do you get them from KB White?
He's out of time with this conversation.
Anyway, we can move on.
Yeah.
I just checked the tides, by the way, and it looks like the week that ends in the 20th is the better week.
Okay, so why don't we solidify that right now? Do you want to make a motion and fix the date?
Ben?
Yeah, I do. I'm fine with the 20th. We just need to get a press release out by the 27th. That's all. That's the only time crunch, but we could totally make that happen.
That's in 3 days.
Yeah, I mean, we have a template for one. So then maybe we could meet tomorrow, Susan. And,
Okay.
wanna do that?
Tomorrow's Tuesday. Let me just look at my calendar and we can either talk after the meeting. or
Sure.
I'll speak to you tomorrow morning?
Let's do it after the meeting.
Okay. All right.
All right. So so how do I do this? Do I want to make a motion to have the clam contest on September 20th?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed, carried.
All right.
Gotta hurry up and get our running shoes on.
We do. Yeah. I know Lori, she started preparing for this normally in like, early spring over the years. So
I know. Yep.
off kilter, but we'll get it done. It'll be great. All right. Thanks, guys.
Okay.
All right. The next topic is kayak updates. Do we have anything on that?
We've kind of tabled that. I've spoken to several of members of the public there, and we'll work on that basically postseason to see if we can get those other locations. I'll reach out to the Nature Preserve Committee and see if we could possibly use those upland areas. And if not, we may have to explore some other locations. Final alternative would be just to eliminate those additional racks, which is going to eliminate some of our spots here.
We've had so much traffic and volume in the kayaks and everything. It's I don't know if this is going to be in the beginning of things or just an abnormal year. But the next item is the pump out boats, and that's another thing that the increases in volume have pushed everything to the brink.
One thing related to the pump out boat, Arlene's got a what do you call an application for a grant and all for a new pump out boat, which we desperately need. This is we're sort of in a crisis mode. It's been a pretty crappy week for the pump out boat. There's some mechanical issues with the boat in Montauk itself that we're looking to trade out a pump on it. And the land-based unit has got some problems with the hose, which I did speak to Ed Michaels today. The purchase request was approved for the hose. That was ordered today, and that should be on within a week. But we got a tremendous volume of, I guess, crap that we're dealing with. And the public is kind of complaining about the fact that we can't handle the shit fast enough.
All right, get it moving.
Yeah.
Hey, Jim, we have a man down too, right? Do we have any updates on?
We got and you know what's really tough is you got a man down, and he's also happens to be one of the handier men. Mm-hmm. Okay, so some of our mechanical issues had typically been handled by him, and I'm going to go see if we can match up the pump that we have sitting in the basement to the boat out in Montauk. And Ed Michaels and I have figured out, we'll figure a way to get that transferred over, get the old pump rebuilt. And, we'll see if we can limp through the season. But with the volume of work that these guys have out there, two things. We need another boat, and really not as a backup. We need another boat to handle the volume that we're working with right now. If it stays the way it is, we had kind of looked at this as, okay, we'll get another boat. The old boat we can semi-retire. It'll be there when something breaks down. That old boat's going to be there for the high traffic time. Yeah. And
it's in the rotation.
Well, and you know what? I think if this is a pattern that's developed, we're going to actually have to look down the road about the possibility of another boat.
Yeah.
Good candidates for grants, which is great. So we should pursue it and get it done.
So
there's a couple funding possibilities out there we can look into.
Well, we've got, I guess the monies. Some of the monies are there right now. We're looking for a match, perhaps from the Community Preservation Fund on level of water quality to infill those numbers so we can get this other boat in the works.
Can I ask about approximately the cost of a pump out boat for I have no idea what they cost, and I think probably the public is unaware of that as well.
No, well, they're pricey. I think one of the ones we were looking at was, I think it was $180,000.
Yeah, this topic has come up a couple times before.
Yeah. I mean, the volume of the number of vessels just exploded this year with the virus.
Okay.
People have decided it was a safe environment to be on a boats. People are also using their own showers on the boats instead of using public facilities. And it's, the volume is like tripled, quadrupled just overnight.
Well, I don't know if anybody saw the article about the boat that's in Sag Harbor waters now.
It is.
I'm sorry?
There's a lot of them.
No, but this is the largest boat that's ever been in the harbor, in Sag Harbor. It usually is in the Mediterranean during this time of year, but because of COVID, they came here. It's huge, enormous boat. So that was in the paper today in I don't know what paper it was, but it's massive.
Yeah, but we're going to have to vastly increase the size of our capacity here.
Yeah. I want to just jump back for a moment before we go on to the next subject, if we're done with the pump out boat. Jim, are we finished with that? Or I just want to jump back to kayaks for a second.
Sure.
All right. This weekend, I went up to Accabonac Harbor. I was notified by the committee, Accabonac Protection Committee, that there were some kayaks that were loose on the beach, and both had stickers, so they were fine. But I texted, got in touch with John, and John, I thought you were actually going to address this evening. I thought maybe we should, in our next year's permits, have a condition whereby people have to actually secure their watercraft to the rack, because otherwise, if a nor'easter comes through or something happens, someone had used this person's boat that was on the beach. They had a broken paddle inside the boat that belonged to a paddle board. So I just want to propose that we make it a condition that when we give permits for the kayaks and for paddle boards, that they are secured to the rack so they aren't used by other people and they're not lost into the waterways. And so I wanted to put that out there as a thought.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable request or a reasonable condition that we should consider as, privilege of using the kayak racks. For the reasons you say, somebody's taking a kayak and using somebody else's kayak, it's left. And the problem for the harbor master is what's around. It could be a liability issue. So I think that's something we should definitely consider for next year. And I think we also need to consider some other things. One of them is paddle boards. I'm not sure. There are paddle boards out there with permits on them. I don't think we've ever really made a decision on this. We've discussed it before, but I don't think we've ever said yes or no. I don't know, possibly people are getting kayak permits and then just putting them on paddle boards. I'm not sure, but that's another thing I think we need to look into as well. And just
John, I wouldn't be surprised if someone's doing that with the permits. The paddleboard's a simple footprint, 30 inches wide, as a regular kayak, but I don't think that was ever the intent of the program.
No, but most paddle boards that are stored are kind of stored horizontally, not vertically necessarily. So they're taking up as much room as
I've been monitoring Mile Hill and Settlers Landing, and there's definitely a nice percentage of paddle boards. It's probably 30%. And I think it goes back to what we were talking about boating, is that it's a perfect COVID recreation. And, we should really take a look at, allowing the public to use paddle boards as well as kayaks is what I think.
Yeah, Tim, I think there's a more efficient way to store the paddle boards, and John's been really providing a lot of leadership in this area, so I'll let him continue talking, but I think there is an opportunity to do something with paddle boards.
Well, there definitely is. Well, paddle boards, however, are not as difficult to transport as kayaks either. So I think all these things kind of have to be hashed out, maybe decided in committee and brought to the board for its larger decision on what we're going to do about these things. If we're going to start, we're going to allow kayaks and paddle boards, and we have issues with putting up racks that people become unhappy with. We've got some major considerations on that. Plus, if we're going to allow paddle boards and we're going to redesign racks to accommodate the paddle boards, it's a whole nother basically.
We could possibly make a paddleboard specific racks. I would imagine you could fit quite a few paddleboards in.
Where are we going to put these racks?
Same space.
Is my question.
You have to cut back on some of the kayaks then, because otherwise we're just enlarging the entire construction on the beaches, which at some point you'll have no beach.
Gotta find the balance.
Can we go back to my proposal or suggestion that we consider, or that we include a regulation as part of the permit that you have to secure your watercraft to the facility, to the rack? I mean, I see this as people borrowing other people's kayaks, leaving them on the beach. The high tide comes in, washes them away, and then Ed Michaels and the Marine Patrol have to come by if somebody reports it, or we have to go up and see what's going on. I think it's a safety issue as well if we have high winds.
Are you thinking we need to vote on this, or is this something we can just?
I don't think we need to vote on it. I think it's a good suggestion. And for next year, when we hand out the permits, I think adding some little additional language in the blurb that we give people would probably be very beneficial.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree.
Thank you.
Yeah, and to John's point, I think there is a lot of committee work that's going to go on this winter on this topic and other related topics.
One other thing about the kayaks, Tim and I put warning stickers on unpermitted vessels 2 weeks ago. So that time is up, and we'll be checking this week to see if they're still there, and if they are, they will be impounded. So if anybody's got a canoe out there they're not supposed to have on the kayak rack, they get it out of there, be impounded.
I saw those on the south side of the rack. There was a bunch of crafts there.
Well, not that I'm thinking more of the ones I looked at in Acapulco. The ones in Mile Hill that you're talking about, I'm not sure that they don't fall into the allowable to store on the beach.
Right.
There were some sunfish and things like that.
For the public, the date that the public has to remove their watercrafts from the racks is what date? November
1st.
November 1st. Okay. All right.
You ready for mosquito larvae?
Oh, yes. I today emailed Tom Iwaneko and John and all the citizen scientists are on that email just to confirm that what Tom had said to us last week is that our mosquito larvae water sampling is officially done for this season. And that's due in part to COVID and, having funds allocated elsewhere for the moment. But I think we had a pretty successful season, remained with the typical hotspots that we had in the past, at least in our polygon with Edwina Von Gaal and myself. I received the updates on applications, and the last one I received was August 19th, and Accabonac Harbor was treated. I think the next step, I did attend the salt marsh revegetation program through Runnels. And for those people, because it was so popular, several of us were unable to hear the dialogue. They were filled to capacity. It was called Salt Marsh Revegetation Through Runnels, an Adaptation Technique to Enhance Resilience. And that was held this past last week, past Thursday. But it is available, and I have links for anybody who missed it, because I did send out the link to all of you. I will send out the link where Dr. Nicole Meyer gave us another option to view it. So that will be the next step. I have been documenting the way the salt marsh looks by photos and sending them off to Suffolk County Vector and to Nicole every week that we did the sampling, so that they could see the condition of the salt marsh. And that's about it. I think thanks to everybody who worked on the teams, from our planning department, Eleni, Mike, John, Edwina, and I thank you very much for participating in this important program.
Mike Martinson.
Mike Martinson, who's not here tonight. Yes.
So, do you have anything else on this, John, or anything?
I know that pretty well covered it.
All right. Susan, you want to get into the education stuff with the...
Oh, sure. I just want to mention once again that this coming Saturday, I'm going to host, with the regulations as prescribed by the COVID rules, the only event that we can do. I just decided that I should just go ahead and do it at our town office, which is at Atlantic Avenue and Bluff Road, to raise funds for the William J. Rysam Scholarship Fund, which is the fund that we give the award every year to a student from East Hampton High School for their college tuition. So we'll have on hand face masks and t-shirts and the sweatshirts, and I'll have a tent, bringing my dog and my husband Paul, and I'll be there from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. We will be selling these items. All the proceeds will go directly to the scholarship fund. I have been selling masks from all different sources and mailing them to people. And which brings us to, so again, it's this coming Saturday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the East Hampton Town Trustees office. 267 Bluff Road, corner of Atlantic Avenue. We will be accepting cash or checks only at this juncture until we get to Square, which is the next topic. That was first proposed and shown to me last year at our largest clam contest by Charlotte Sasso and her son of Stewart Seafood. So I sent a link to everyone. The Square would permit us to use credit cards for sales of this nature, and the topic of whether or not we could use it for the trustees to sell our permits for all sorts of different types of permits that are needed by people has come up. John, you asked that question. So Arlene, thank you for sending the link that describes in greater detail how that would work. So I don't know if anybody's had the time to read the link that I sent you about what Square is, how it works. But I would certainly like to vote on this tonight if we can, to move forward. I think it would be an asset to us.
I'd like to make a motion that we go through with the Square program, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Any opposed?
I just want to make a quick side. Sorry, I was muted and I was talking. I think this, at least we should pass this for really like mobile transactions, and then take a look at whether or not we want to pay this extra 2% on any other transactions. The quick calculations was it might cost us upwards $880 if we were to use this to do kayaks, and I think that's just money kind of fluttered away.
Why is
or do a processing fee for credit card transactions.
Yeah, we charge the user, but maybe that's it. Just charge the user if they want to use a credit card, and then if not, no fee if they pay by check. Or Arlene, I'm not sure exactly how they pay now.
Pay by check or
By check or cash.
Right.
You're doing good, Tim.
Okay.
But how, I don't understand what's the difference? In other words, is there a difference if you
use
buy a
John,
t-shirt
if
or if
you
you buy a permit?
If you use the square to process it, it's like, I think 1.8%. So,
Well, and then you also, as a vendor, you're going to pay a fee on the credit card
Merchant.
anyway.
Well, what I
Merchant
saw that was it's a 2.6% per transaction plus 10 cents.
blended with everything.
But then there's other ways you can set it up. But it seems like the basic way is 2.6% plus 10 cents per transaction.
All in.
So but I don't understand the distinction between buying a t-shirt or buying a permit.
No, I think that's a price point discussion, John. In terms of,
and also buying a
t-shirt, built it in, you're good. If you're doing a permit, you have to do an add-on.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Or you do add-ons on both.
put it,
For the balloon items, this I'm adjusting things so that that will be absorbed by the price of the item, which I've discussed with Francis very briefly.
Yeah,
But
I
we're
would
going to
agree
become
that-
more competitive with what the market is permitting for those items.
Yeah, that's a good way of dealing with those sales. And I think, the suggestion was we could put a transaction fee on other things if they came through the office. But I think I'm not sure how this is set up and if it's set up through one person's cell phone or can it be done by Susan when she's selling items and also then be done by the office when they're collecting permit fees. If it
Yeah, I think the answer is yes.
way.
I think the answer is yes, because you can have multiple credit card machines for your organization, whether it's multi-site or single site or more than one presence on one campus. So, I think we have some flexibility there, and it's probably a cloud-based app. So, I think it's going to permit us to operate the way we need to and hopefully make things a little safer for our office staff.
yeah. So we'll look into a transaction fee for the normal fees we charge. Put another $2 or $3 on the permit, So the motion then to go ahead with the Square program.
Okay. And then this evening, Arlene sent out that link, so it gives a little more detail about how the price structure is. So anyway,
Hey,
well,
Tim, are you all good? Tim, are you good with everything?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I kind of feel like this Square is really just to help Susan along getting credit cards when she's out in the field. And I'm not sure if I want to increase the $200 kayak rack fee just to accommodate the Square in our office unless Arlene feels that it's needed. I guess I'd ask Arlene. Arlene, what do you think? You got on mute.
I think that we should vote just to accept them for the merchandise now. When I looked online, it didn't seem that we could pass along the fee, that they would collect the fee from the person on the other side. So why don't we just do this in steps? Let's give it a run with Susan. Francis will be here. And in the past, he said we're already receiving all these funds, and they're quite large, the Lazy Point leases, dock fees, everything. So for us just to receive less money when you're looking at $40,000 or 79, it just doesn't, may not make sense. So that's my suggestion.
Okay, that sounds reasonable.
Yeah, after listening to the discussion, it really makes better sense to use this Square program just for these T-shirts and items that we're selling. I think
see how it works out.
Yeah, I think once we start extending it to permits and that, the values are bigger, and you know what? That it's amazing how quickly that percentage gnaws away at your revenues.
Agreed.
All right. So we're doing it for the t-shirts, and we'll just keep doing the big stuff the same way we've always doing it.
I agree.
All right.
All right, well, thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate your vote for the square for William Rysam Scholarship Fund. Thank you.
Okay. So now we have Nat Peak Lazy Point. The public hearing, August 25th, on the application of Heidi Ho.
Yeah, that's tomorrow, and that's one I think it's going to be well worth our while. I don't know that we need to comment. I don't think we should. But I think it's well worth the while for the Lazy Point committee people to listen in on this hearing, because ultimately we do have to review this and have a position here. I think given though, the one thing I do want to say about this is one of the things that we took upon ourselves once we did the 35-year leases, okay, is that this is something that for somebody to secure, whether it's financing or whether it's flood insurance, I don't think we in good conscience can deny somebody the right to bring their property into FEMA compliance.
Hey, Jim, are the neighbors and the general town review process considered in this? And isn't that, what the purpose of all these different regulations is for the trustees to take advantage of them to do a proper review?
That's exactly what that review process is. And that's why I want to say here that we certainly have an interest, but I don't think that we should be in a position where we are either promoting this application or taking away from this application. The town's very competent. They've got the right people. And I think any neighbor concerns or issues will be brought to the forefront at the hearing tomorrow night.
Yeah. I'm just going to chime in and say that this project entails, I have the papers in front of me, a natural resources special permit and a variance required to raise the existing house and decking to FEMA compliance and a new low nitrogen sanitary system on their property. And that meeting will be tomorrow evening at 7:10 p.m. They have come up. So if anybody wants to watch it here, it will be on LTV at 7:10 p.m. Heidi Ho.
What time is it?
I'd just like to say that I think this is an important application. It's, as Jim said, it's our first look at a big project in that view. And I think we should all try to take a look at this CBA hearing of this application. We can do it on LTV video on demand anytime we want to, and just find it. It will only be probably a half an hour of your time.
Yeah, this is going to be an issue. It's going to be very important for everybody on the board to be up to speed on, because this is just the first one, and I'm sure there's going to be more.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And just so everybody understands, because I know we've got some new board members here and some people that probably don't necessarily deal with zoning and planning issues on a regular basis. What triggers this is any time that you're going to do something in excess of 50% of the value of that structure, that triggers you into becoming FEMA compliant. For years, some of the applicants down there have skirted that by sort of isolating and sort of fragmenting their applications to fall under that threshold. But what's happened is the building department nowadays is really looking at applications in a more comprehensive capacity. So they've really kind of painted the applicants out of that option. So what Bill says is going to be correct. We're going to see more of these applications, not just in Lazy Point, but you're going to see that, you're seeing that in other areas as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's somewhat commonplace in other than our leased properties out here. It's not uncommon at all for a waterfront property to basically be guided into the FEMA compliance as part of the planning process.
And people generally, they want to be FEMA compliant, correct? They want elevation, they want to be up higher.
Well, they do, but
be required.
Becoming FEMA compliant also comes with some significant expenses to the to the property owner, or in this case, the tenant.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
Before we leave Lazy Point, I figured I'd give you a quick update on Fresh Pond. You know, we've had an application in for dredging. There's no change in the status on that. Drew Bennett is starting to pursue that a little more diligently now as we're getting closer to dredge season.
Hey, Jim, on that topic, we also got a notice from Mr. Bennett regarding Little Northwest Creek.
Yeah.
It looks like that project's moving along.
Well, actually, that project is, yes. In fact, actually, the notice that we got is we have to basically advertise the application through the local papers, through the East Hampton Star. That notice will sit for 4 weeks, at the end of which time, if there is no correspondence from the public against the project, the permit will be issued. So we could potentially see a permit on that as early October at this point, which is really good. It falls well within the time that we'd like to see it. And you know, the next big question here is whether grant monies will be available for the funding for that project.
Yeah, and I think we're due to have a follow-up meeting on that topic, so maybe we can get together in the next couple of weeks on that.
Thanks.
Does that mean that the DEC has reviewed this application?
It's in technical review now, John, and their review doesn't see any problems with it unless the public points out a particular issue that they see with it.
That's their final word on it?
That's
their
their final
with it unless there's a...
That's all of the, you know, we had to do the sampling, as you recall.
Right.
All of the beach compatibility of the sand and stuff and the sediment samples that were taken were all good. They were all clean. And, you know, that seemed to be a big, you know, one of the big hurdles, which it really wasn't, but you never know, you know, when you take the samples, if it's a bunch of muck bottom, you're not going to get a permit to do the dredging, but it's all looking good.
This is all good. It's a great project, and hopefully there'll be no opposition to it. There shouldn't be, but
well, the only, you know, it's funny, Bill. The only thing that did come up this summer from a member of the public was, oddly enough, concern about eastern diamondback terrapin nesting and overwintering sites. And one of the things that was established about through the review process is we will be dredging nowhere near those locations. But it did, you know, there are members of the public out there that are paying attention, and it was nice.
Oh, yeah.
It was nice to hear from somebody that said, "Hey, you know, I know you want to do this dredging, but I have a problem with it." And once we discussed it and they understood the metes and bounds of the areas being dredged, everything was good.
It's good. Good project.
Great project. It's exciting.
All right. Northwest Creek, Mile Hill Road.
John, you gonna take this?
Well, Susan, why don't you start? Because you brought this up.
You live closer to it.
Well, I agree with John. I think Susan Susan kind of brought this to the board, so I think we should let her start.
Oh, me? Oh, I thought I sent you all pictures of the beautiful job that was done. So I want to thank you, Tim and John, because this I thought initiated with you, but I went up and took pictures, and it was after the heavy rainstorm we had. The sand is nice and thick and beautiful. And the only other section that I did speak to a couple of weeks ago was the little tiny footpath to the right. which really is being used. And while I was there, 2 women walked through it, and it's filled with cement blocks and rocks and things that are discarded, and it's begun to be overgrown. But I'm happy to go up and try to shovel it out, because I think we should close it up so that people only use the nice new path down, which is obvious that's the path. But for some reason, people, they want a shortcut over to the right. Some people.
Hey, Susan, that's kind of the local path over to that way. So I just think a lot of people have used it for generations that live here still. And some people are just comfortable with it, even though it is tricky. The new path is awesome. I mean, it was a great job that was done. But, like I said, other people just, I think, use it out of habit. So
well, shouldn't it be safer, though? I mean, if it is dangerous.
Yeah, no, if you have some ideas for safety, I think that would be great.
Well,
I think some people just like it kind of simple.
Can we bring more sand in and fill it in the way we did to the left?
I have a suggestion.
I think that's a great format if that works, but I'm just saying some people, don't want to see too much improvement. They really like it the way it is. So that's just what some of the neighbors shared with me. But I think you're on the right track. It needs to be safer, definitely.
I have a suggestion here. I looked into this a little bit today after your email, Susan, and this is on town property. It's this path. It's on the road right of way. So I think what Tim and I, you two, if you want to come down, we can take a look at it, kick around a couple of ideas, and then maybe take this to the town board and see what they think, what they can do about it. If we have some suggestions.
Hey, John.
I agree with Rick, though, that this is a traditional path, and I don't think it should be closed off, because if it is, it'll only be reopened by the public again. Go ahead, Rick. Sorry.
Well, would anybody like, I don't know, did I only send the pictures to you, John and Tim, of the secondary path? Because I'll be happy to send them to everybody so you can see. I'm concerned about the safety issue.
Well, you're right, Susan. There's rubble in the way, and rubble's been in the way for years and years now. It's not, we're not, you're right. There's an obstacles. There are obstacles there. If we can just take a look at it and see how the obstacles may be overcome, and then see if the town board is willing to go along with it, and maybe, get someone in the town to do.
Well, it took maybe less than a week for us to do that other really nice path with Mr. Leese's help. So maybe we try to go that route if it is more of a path that's been used over the years that should be maintained, and we should fix it and make it so it's safe. And I'm sure the town board will help.
That's
Well, I'll send the pictures out and y'all can decide. But I do think I'm just nervous about people, breaking an ankle or falling down or something. We can make it a little safer. But anyway, great job on the other side. It's really nice now, and it's safe. So thank you.
And it works. Yeah, it works really well.
Yeah, looks great. The highway department did a great job.
Yep. Steve and Kevin and the members of the team do a good job.
Yep. So, John, we'll circle back with the powers that be, and we'll look at it, and you get we'll give a recommendation and talk to the town board and go from there.
right. I think that's a good idea.
Great.
That's great. Everything looks good. Rick, do you want to do an update on the roads?
Sure. Hey, Ben, have you had a chance to go out and take a look at any of the roads?
Yeah, I did. I drove down Edwards Hole, Old Sag Harbor, and then Barcelona Neck all the way to the beach. And Edwards Hole actually had some big trees down. I had to back out of there. I couldn't get through.
Yeah, there's a lot of cutting that's gone on there, and probably some tree fall from the pine beetle. And I'm continuing to correspond with the land management department on ownership contacts and policy that they're working with, so we can perhaps incorporate some of that and maybe get some leverage on the homeowners to properly dispose or move back onto their own property the offcut Unfortunately, some of the members have been on vacation and they've had limited hours, so it's just going a little slower than I would like. But definitely want to continue the journey to clean some of these areas up. And looking ahead, the roads are a lot of responsibility. There are a lot of uses going on. Younger people are riding dirt bikes and ATVs and things like that, four-wheel use, etc. So there's really a bigger conversation. I hope when we get into the off season, I can really document this a little better and start to have some discussions with members of the board as to the direction of our roads, because they're a huge responsibility, and unfortunately they don't generate any revenue. So that's really tricky in today's world, to own a lot of real estate that doesn't produce revenue. So it is something that's got to be considered and looked at in the future. So I don't know if any other members want to start to have this discussion, but in the fall I'm really hoping to focus on this a great deal and start to get some policy together for the future.
Well,
sorry, go ahead.
Anyway, hey, Rick, I do think what you're talking about is very important. We do own these roads. They don't generate any revenue, but clearly what we're starting to see is, especially with some of the areas where the pine bark beetle has sort of knocked down the pitch pines, is a lot of these owners are taking it upon themselves to do these ad hoc revegetations that, unfortunately, most of them don't include any native plants. It's clearly just a screening exercise, and I think as stewards of the land, it is our responsibility here to maintain sort of the continuity and the integrity of these forest areas that are these roads in some places. These are, scenic corridors. And I know that we've talked about in some circles the pine bark beetle as being, it's decimating and destroying the pitch pines. I'm looking at it from a slightly different viewpoint. In the areas along Swamp Road where the pine beetles had basically wiped out a lot of the pitch pines about 3 years ago, when you go by those areas now, you've got this really healthy, robust understory that's sprung back. The black huckleberry is looking amazing. And you are seeing a lot of reoccurrence of pine seedlings. Now, mostly what you're seeing now is eastern white pine, but I'm pretty confident in short order, you're going to see pitch pines coming up in there. And, yes, it is a catastrophic event at the moment, but in the larger scheme of things, we're watching sort of nature at work. And long term, I think what you're going to see is a little bit more diversity in that forest area, or a little improved diversity that's always been there. And these events with pitch pines historically are not totally uncommon. If there was, we would have these big old grand pitch pines as big as some of our white pines. And if you notice, we don't. And it's and probably for a very good reason.
There's a lot of new recruitment there. And, that's good to see. And I think the black pine kind of overshadowed all these other species.
Yeah, so you're kind of watching the resetting of the clock, so to speak.
It's amazing that we have a resource like that can reset, and rejuvenate. It's truly a natural environment, which we still have, and a lot of communities have lost that. So it's pretty special.
I often take Swamp Road going home, and I have looked at this swath of area where the trees were cut down because of the pine beetle, and there's already new, beautiful, fresh pines coming up, and they grow rather rapidly. I don't know if anybody has taken a look at Route 114 as you make a left or right into Swamp. There is a whole corner of pine trees that are completely dead that I had not noticed before. And I don't know if they're going to be cut down by the highway department, or is that a state thing that gets done? But I don't know, about 20 of them are completely gone. There's no, and I've never seen that before until this, just a few weeks ago, that they were all gone. Anybody know about that, Jim? Would you?
Yeah, no, actually, Susan, a bunch of those trees have been dead for over a year. You know, I think it's becoming more noticeable now.
Yeah. I know.
I've seen those.
Often, Susan.
I've seen those trees as well. I'm waiting for one of them to fall across Route 114.
I know. So who is responsible for taking them down? Would that be the state or the highway department from the state?
I think it's on private land. It has to be at the discretion of the landowner.
Yeah, no, I don't, there's nothing there. I don't think anybody owns that land. I think it's just on the highway area. So, but anyway, it's very sad. But I'm very happy to see all the new growth that's occurring on Swamp Road, on that long stretch. Beautiful new white pines.
So just to wrap up, Ben, did you want to add anything else on your visits or future thoughts? I know I'd like to get together with you in the near future and start to collaborate a little more after we get past Labor Day.
Yeah, definitely. The only thing that really stood out was all the offcut, like on the side of the road. It's everywhere.
Yeah, I think someone took advantage a little bit, and we do have to straighten that out. So we'll continue that journey.
And is there any plan from the town or anyone that did any of the cutting to remove all the dead trees that were cut down, or who's?
Well, we're pursuing speaking with the homeowner, but it's just been a little bit of a slow process, as I tried to mention before. So when we talk, maybe after the meeting this week, we can chat, and I'll bring you more up to speed on the details of the communication and so on, and then we can report back to the board.
Okay, that'd be great. Thanks, Rick.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Anything on else?
We're done, Bill. Thanks.
Yep.
Okay. Get to the administrative payment of bills. East Hampton Business Services, $61.90. Montauk Marine Basin, $363.35. Seacoast Enterprises, $122.80. Star Island Yacht Club, $112.21. And get a motion to pay the bills.
I'll make a motion to pay the bill.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed and carried. Has anybody a chance to go over the August 10th minutes?
Yes, and I submitted my edits, and Arlene will have those for the next meeting. I think, John, you also submitted your comments as well.
I did. Yeah, but I guess Arlene's hasn't finished with the edits.
Yeah, no, they'll be ready for the next meeting.
All right, so
We'll table that.
Table that.
We have to renew a certificate of deposit. The certificate of deposit ending in the numbers 1633.
I'll make a motion to roll that over.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Has everybody had a chance to review the financial report for the month ending July 30th?
I don't know. I don't think I got it, but maybe I missed it. I'm sorry. I did not. But if I could get a copy, or I'll stop by the office over the weekend, I'll take a look.
So we'll table that. And I know everybody wishes Francis a speedy recovery and hope he feels better. And I get a motion to close the meeting.
I'll make a motion to close.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Third.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night, everyone.